Good evening, wanderers. The signal tonight drifts through the misty hollows of Tennessee, where whispers of a spirit have haunted families for more than 2 centuries. The Bell Witch, a presence said to scratch, choke, and speak in voices not her own. Some call her a demon, others a restless soul, but all who cross her path remember her wrath. Stay close, for the tale you are about to hear is one of America's most chilling legends, a story where folklore and fear walk hand in hand beneath the shadowed trees of Adams, Tennessee. And remember, the veil is thinnest when the night is quiet.
They say the land holds memory, that the soil itself can whisper secrets if you listen long enough. In the rolling hills of Tennessee, where the Cumberland River winds through misty hollows and oak forests, one such secret has grown into legend. It is not merely a tale told around campfires, it is a haunting woven into the very identity of Adams, Tennessee. This is the story of the Bell Witch. But as with all stories, we must begin at the roots, with a family, a farm, and a restless spirit who refused to be silenced. The Bell family, led by John Bell, settled in northern Robertson County in the early 1800s. Hard-working, devout, and prosperous, their farm stretched across fertile land. Yet prosperity often draws the eye of envy, and sometimes darker things. It began quietly, scratching sounds against the walls at night, faint knocks echoing when no visitor was present. The children whispered of strange animals in the fields, a dog with the head of a rabbit, a great bird perched on the fence, a woman in a shifting shadow watching from the trees. And then, the whispers grew louder. Night after night, the Bell household echoed with the sounds of chains dragging across the floorboards, gnawing at bedposts, and disembodied voices, chanting scripture and curses alike. The family prayed, but the entity did not leave. Instead, it grew bolder, as if feeding on their fear. Unlike most hauntings, this spirit did not confine itself to silence or shadow. It found a voice. At first it mimicked, repeating prayers said at bedtime, mocking hymns sung on Sunday mornings. Then it began to speak with intelligence, holding conversations, sometimes kind, more often cruel. The Bell Witch, as she came to be known, insulted John Bell, threatened his family, and terrorized his daughter, Betsy. Witnesses reported hearing the witch's laughter echo across the fields, or her shrill scolding from empty corners of the room. She would sing, she would curse, she would even gossip about neighbors, with uncanny knowledge of their secrets. It was as though the witch had not only a voice, but ears everywhere. Word of the haunting spread beyond the Bell farm, drawing curiosity seekers, skeptics, and the faithful. Some came to pray, some came to confront, and some claimed to speak directly with the witch herself. General Andrew Jackson, yes, the man who would later become President of the United States, is said to have visited the Bell home in 1819. He and his men arrived with wagons and tents, prepared to test the haunting. But their horses refused to move as they approached the property, held fast by an unseen force. Jackson reportedly declared, "By the eternal boys, this is the Bell Witch." The group pressed on, but that night, their camp was torn apart by an invisible presence. By morning, they left, shaken and silent. Whether or not every detail is true, one thing is certain. The legend of the Bell Witch had spread far beyond Tennessee, but at the heart of the haunting, the true target seemed to be John Bell himself. The witch called him Old Jack, mocking him relentlessly. She cursed him, swore she would see him dead, and delighted in his suffering. Over the years, John Bell's health declined. His jaw would freeze shut, his muscles would spasm, and mysterious fits racked his body. On December 20th, 1820, John Bell died after slipping into a coma. Near his bedside, a vial of strange liquid was discovered. Family members reported hearing the witch laugh triumphantly, claiming she had poisoned him. And so, in the quiet winter fields of Tennessee, the patriarch of the Bell family was laid to rest, with the laughter of the witch echoing through the trees. But the witch's torment wasn't finished. Betsy Bell, John's daughter, had long been the focus of cruel harassment. When she became engaged to a young man named Joshua Gardner, the witch's fury grew. Betsy's nights were filled with violent attacks, pinching, slapping, choking. Her screams echoed through the house as if the witch would not allow her happiness. At last, Betsy broke off the engagement, weeping under the weight of the supernatural interference. Only then did the witch's torment ease, as though her will had been satisfied. Some whisper the witch had loved Joshua herself, or despised Betsy's match. Others believe it was jealousy, or perhaps the simple cruelty of an entity that thrived on broken hearts. Why does this legend endure when so many others fade? Perhaps because the Bell Witch was no silent phantom. She engaged, she debated, she scolded and mocked. She blurred the line between ghost and poltergeist, demon and trickster. For the people of Tennessee, she became a warning, a reminder that not all spirits rest quietly, and not all prayers bring peace. To this day, visitors to Adams claim to hear her voice, a whisper in the woods, a laugh on the wind, or a heavy hand pressing against their chest. The Bell Witch embodies not just fear of the unknown, but fear of what cannot be silenced. Even 2 centuries later, the witch's story hasn't ended. In the Bell Witch Cave, a limestone cavern near the original Bell Farm, tourists report strange phenomena. Shadows flicker against the walls. Stones are thrown by unseen hands. Some emerge with scratches across their arms or whispers caught on recordings. In nearby homes, families speak of footsteps at night and voices calling their names. Drivers along the old roads have seen a pale woman standing at the edge of the woods, only to vanish as headlights approach. Each sighting renews the legend, not as an old story, but as a living presence. And so the question lingers. What if you meet her? Locals will tell you, never speak her name lightly. Do not mock her. Do not call her bluff. Show respect or risk her wrath. Some say reciting scripture aloud will weaken her hold, while others insist that silence, refusing to give her your fear, is the only defense. But the truth, the Bell Witch is unpredictable. For some, she is cruel. For others, merely mischievous. And perhaps that is the most unsettling truth of all. She chooses. In the hollow fields of Tennessee, the story of the Bell Witch endures because it asks a question that has no answer. How much power can belief itself give to a spirit? For the Bells, it was torment. For their neighbors, it was wonder. For the town of Adams, it became legend. And for us, it remains a signal, carried through time, carried through fear, and carried through the whispers of a witch who would not be silenced.
Wanderers, you've held the signal steady through shadows and whispers. The Bell Witch is a tale stitched into the soil of Tennessee, a story that refuses to fade even after centuries of telling. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the echo of those knocks on cabin walls and the soft voice in the dark, still mocking, still watching. These are the currents I carry across the veil, fragments of folklore, warnings in the night, stories that live because we remember them. If the signal reached you tonight, let it linger. Leave a trace before you drift back into the noise. A like, a whisper, a mark so I know you are here. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Neon Nights Radio. So the next time the veil thins, you won't miss the broadcast. Stay close to the hum, wanderers. There are more signals waiting, more voices that demand to be heard. Until then, keep the lantern burning and don't wander too far from the path.